Previously, Grace was just a maid, invisible, unheard, and unwanted in the mansion of the wealthy Blake family. But fate had other plans. After a whirlwind of betrayal, heartbreak, and a secret pregnancy, Daniel Blake, the billionaire heir, defied his mother, his class, and society to claim the woman he loved. Now, in Part 3, we step into a new chapter where love is tested beyond the altar. Secrets still linger in the shadows, and power struggles threaten the fragile peace they've built. Will their love survive what's coming next? Let's find out. The sun burned low in the sky as Daniel's black posh car slowly rolled through the dusty, narrow roads of the poor neighborhood. Its shiny body stood out like a diamond in the dirt, drawing curious stares from everyone around. Children paused mid-play, adults whispered, and vendors stared, wondering who the wealthy stranger was and what business he had in their world. Inside the car, Daniel's heart pounded. His palms were sweaty against the leather steering wheel. He had asked Ruth to give him the exact location, and now that he was here, what would he say? What if she had moved on? What if the baby wasn't his? Then he saw her, Grace, dressed in a faded wrapper and a worn-out blouse, her belly slightly showing beneath the fabric. She balanced a tray of groundnuts on her head. She was moving from house to house, softly calling out to customers. She looked tired, exhausted, but something about her still glowed. Her steps were slow but graceful. Her eyes, when they met someone's, still held kindness. Daniel didn't get out immediately. He stayed in the car and watched her, his breath catching in his throat. So many memories rushed through him, her laughter, the way she quietly served everyone in his home, their secret conversations, the night she stayed in his room, the way she had trembled beneath his touch. How had he let her slip away? He couldn't wait any longer. Pushing open the car door, he stepped out. His designer shoes touched the dusty ground as curious eyes turned toward him. He started walking toward her, one step at a time. Grace felt a presence before she saw him. She turned, and the tray nearly fell from her hands. "Daniel?" she whispered, eyes wide, lips trembling. The street froze. Everyone was watching. The handsome man from the big car was standing before their Grace. "Grace," he said gently, eyes locked on hers. "Can we talk?" She looked around, confused, shaking her head slowly as if trying to wake up from a dream. "What are you doing here?" "I came for you," he said. "I had to find you." People began murmuring, some laughing in disbelief. Grace's face flushed with heat. "Please, not here," she said quickly, picking up her tray. "Follow me." She led him to a quiet corner, her hands shaking. "I didn't know how to find you," he said. "Ruth only told me 2 days ago. I left everything, just to come." Grace's lips tightened. "I can't believe you are here. I never thought I would see you again." He stepped closer. "I have been searching for you, Grace, and I am glad I have finally found you. Is it mine? The baby?" Tears welled up in her eyes. She nodded slowly. His chest heaved with emotion. "Grace, I love you. I never stopped loving you. I wanted to tell my family before I left. I wanted us to be together." Her shoulders shook as she tried to hold back tears. "Then why didn't you come all these while? I was hopeless and helpless. I didn't know how to bring a baby all alone to this world. They threw me out like trash. No one told me anything. I waited, Daniel. I hoped. Then nothing. I didn't know," he said. "I swear. They lied. They told me you just left. I was broken. I thought you didn't want me. And now?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Why are you here?" He knelt down before her, right there in the sand. "Because you're carrying my child. Because I love you. Because I want us back." She covered her mouth, shaking her head. "Daniel, I don't know. This world of yours, it's too much. I'm just a maid. They'll never accept me." "I don't care what they accept," he said. "You're the woman I want. Not for now, for life. Please, come back with me." She looked down at her growing belly. How do I know this isn't pity? Because I never stopped looking. Because I see you not just the maid, but the woman who changed my world. I need you. Grace's heart ached. She had dreamed of this moment, but now that it was here, it was scarier than ever. Could she trust him again? Could love really win? She wiped her tears and whispered, "Give me time." Daniel nodded. "I'll wait, as long as it takes." The wind was soft as Daniel stood outside Grace's mother's compound. Grace's neighbors peeked through their windows. Others stood in clusters, whispering and pointing at the young man in designer shoes and a sparkling wristwatch. Who is he? Is that Grace's baby father? Is he the one from the big car? Daniel didn't care about the stares. He was looking at Grace, who stood beside him quietly, her hands resting on her growing belly. He reached for her hand and held it gently. "I have to go home," he said softly. "But I promise you, Grace, I'll come back. I'm gonna set everything right. I won't lose you again. And I won't let our baby grow up without a father." Grace looked at him, unsure. "I'm scared, Daniel." He squeezed her hand. "I'm not. Not anymore. I will fight for us. For you. For our child." Then he leaned forward and kissed her forehead. "Wait for me." She nodded slowly, her heart beating fast. Daniel turned and walked back to his car, the crowd still watching as the engine roared to life and the sleek vehicle drove off, leaving dust and whispers behind. At the mansion, the air was busy. Workers moved about, decorators came and left. The wedding was only days away, and Madame Evelyn was fully involved, controlling every detail. Daniel walked in, shoulders high, face glowing. He looked refreshed, strong, like a man who had finally found what he was missing. Evelyn noticed the change immediately. "You look different," she said, eyeing him. "Is everything okay? Are you finally happy about the wedding?" Daniel gave a small smile. "Where do you think I went today, Mother?" She frowned. "Where?" "I found her." Evelyn blinked. "Who?" "Grace," he said clearly. "I found Grace, and she's pregnant with my baby." There was silence. Then Evelyn's voice rose sharply. "You must be joking, Daniel. You want to embarrass this family? Have you lost your mind?" Daniel stepped forward. "No, I finally come to my senses, and I don't care what anyone thinks. Grace is carrying my child. I love her. I'm going to marry her." Evelyn grabbed his arm, panic in her eyes. "Lower your voice. What if someone hears you? You'll ruin everything." "Mother," Daniel said calmly, pulling away. "Everyone is going to hear this. You kept her away from me once, but not again." And with that, he turned and walked to his room. Minutes later, a loud knock came. The door burst open. Vanessa stepped in, her face red with anger. "There you are," she shouted. "Do you know how busy we've been? The florists, the planners, everything's in chaos because you're not around." Daniel stood by the window, arms crossed. "This wedding is not happening, Vanessa." She froze. "What?" "I found Grace," he said, "and she's having my baby. You and my mother worked together to get rid of her, but you failed. She's still carrying a part of me, and I love her." Vanessa's eyes widened. "You're serious?" "Yes." She stared at him like he had gone mad. "You're throwing me away for a maid? After everything?" "I was never yours, Vanessa," he said softly. "I tried, but I never loved you." Without another word, Vanessa turned and stormed out of the room. She found Evelyn in the sitting room. Charlotte was there too, sipping a glass of juice and chatting. "Your son has gone mad," Vanessa cried. "He's going to destroy everything." Evelyn stood up. "What happened?" "He said he's not marrying me. He said he found that girl, and she's pregnant." Charlotte almost dropped her glass. "What?" Evelyn's face turned hard. "You don't need to worry yourself. I won't allow this." "What are we going to do?" Vanessa said, nearly in tears. We've planned everything. He can't just walk away. Evelyn took a deep breath. The wedding will still happen. I don't care how. I will not let some poor village girl ruin our family's name. Charlotte leaned forward. Then we must act now, before he brings her here. That girl must be removed from the picture. This time, forever. Vanessa nodded in agreement. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to be his wife. The room was filled with a chilling silence. 3 women, ready to fight against a love they didn't understand. But Daniel was no longer the boy they could control. He had found something stronger than pressure, wealth, or status. He had found truth. And now he had something to protect. The sun was high when the black SUV parked quietly in front of Grace's small house. Dust rose as the engine stopped. Madame Evelyn Blake stepped out, dressed in expensive clothes, her eyes hidden behind dark glasses. She didn't knock. She pushed the door open and walked in like she owned the place. Grace and her mother were sitting quietly on the worn-out sofa. The moment Evelyn entered, silence fell like a heavy blanket. "Good afternoon, Ma," Grace's mother said carefully. Evelyn didn't reply. She took off her glasses slowly, her sharp eyes going straight to Grace's belly. "You've caused enough damage," she said coldly. "Let's not make this worse." Grace lowered her eyes but stayed calm. Evelyn reached into her handbag and brought out a white envelope. She dropped it on the table. Thick, heavy. "Take this money," she said. "Leave town. Go somewhere far. Have the baby if you want, I don't care. But never come near my son again." Grace's eyes welled up. Her mother shifted uncomfortably. The room was still. "No, Ma," Grace said, voice shaking but strong. "I'm not for sale." Evelyn's eyes flashed. "Don't be foolish, girl. Do you know who I am? Do you know who my son is?" "I do," Grace replied softly. "And I also know that child in my womb is his. I didn't force your son to love me." Evelyn stood up quickly, her pride wounded. "You're treading on dangerous ground. You and your mother will regret this. I promise you that." And with that, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Later that night, in the grand Blake mansion, Daniel sat across from his father in the quiet study. Mr. Blake, tall and calm, sipped his tea as Daniel paced the room. "Dad," he began, "I know this isn't how you pictured my life turning out." Mr. Blake said nothing. "But I'm a man now. I built a billion-dollar company from scratch. I've made big decisions, tough ones, and I've always made them right." His father looked at him, eyes unreadable. Daniel stepped closer. "So let me make this one too. Let me choose who I want to marry." Mr. Blake raised an eyebrow. "Even if it means going against your mother?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, because if I can't have the life I want, then what's the point of all this money? All this success?" The silence hung in the air for a moment. Then Mr. Blake placed the cup down. He sighed. "I've seen many women try to come into your life, Daniel. Most wanted the lifestyle. But I saw the look in your eyes when you spoke of that girl." He paused. "I'm okay with your choice." Daniel's heart swelled. "Thank you, Dad. But be ready," Mr. Blake added. "Your mother will fight this with everything she has." "I'm ready," Daniel said firmly. 2 days later, the mansion gates opened wide, and the whole household froze. Grace stepped out of the car slowly. She wore a long plain dress, her hands protectively around her belly. Daniel held her hand tightly, walking beside her like a shield. She had told Daniel about his mother's proposal and threat, but he had laughed it all off, promising her that he would handle anything. The staff whispered. Some stared in disbelief. Others looked away. Inside the sitting room, Evelyn's scream pierced the air. "What is this? What have you done?" Daniel didn't flinch. "I brought her home." "This is not her home," Evelyn shouted, rising from her chair. "This is the Blake mansion, not some village girl's dream." Grace shrank back slightly, but Daniel pulled her closer. "Mother," he said calmly, "you don't have to like her, but you will respect her." Evelyn's voice trembled with rage. "You will marry Vanessa. This wedding will go on. You will not disgrace us." "No," Daniel said simply. "What did you say?" "I said no," he repeated. "You chose my life before, my school, my career, my friends. This time, I'm choosing." Evelyn stared at him like he was someone else. "You're throwing away everything we built for you." Daniel looked down at Grace, then back at his mother. "No, I'm finally building something that's mine." For the first time, Evelyn looked unsure. Her voice softened, but the threat still lingered. "You're making a mistake." Daniel's jaw tightened. "If loving Grace is a mistake, then I'll live with it." He turned to Grace and whispered, "Come on, let's go to my room." As they walked past Evelyn, she stood frozen, fury written across her face. Behind her, Charlotte watched with narrowed eyes, and Vanessa sat in the corner, her expression unreadable. One thing was clear: this war wasn't over. But Grace had Daniel, and this time he was not letting go. Tears poured down Vanessa's face as she stormed into Madame Evelyn's private lounge. Her mascara had smudged, her once perfect curls were now messy, and her hands trembled with anger and disbelief. "He can't do this to me," she cried, collapsing onto the velvet chair. "A maid. Evelyn? A common maid." Evelyn stood near the window, arms crossed tightly across her chest, her face pale and tired. She had barely slept since Daniel brought Grace into the mansion. Everything she had planned, the grand wedding, the perfect social match, the image of power and control, was crashing right in front of her eyes. Vanessa sobbed harder. "He was mine. We were already planning our future. People knew. What do I tell my family? My friends?" Evelyn walked slowly toward her and sat beside her. She took Vanessa's hand and sighed deeply. "I will talk to him again," she said quietly. "I will try." Vanessa looked up hopefully, but Evelyn's eyes gave her away. "You don't believe you can change his mind, do you?" Vanessa asked, voice shaking. Evelyn looked away. "He's not the boy I used to command. He's a man now, and he's made up his mind." Vanessa's shoulders slumped. "So, that's it? That girl wins? That village girl who scrubbed the floors is now living the life I was meant for?" Evelyn didn't answer. She had always thought she would be the one to choose Daniel's wife, mold her, control her. But Grace had changed everything. Not by fighting, not by manipulation, but by simply being herself, kind, strong, and quietly dignified. Downstairs, Grace sat on the edge of the luxurious bed Daniel had asked the maids to prepare for her. The same room that used to be Vanessa's guest suite was now hers. The same maids who used to call her the girl from the kitchen now bowed slightly when they served her tea. But Grace felt no joy, only discomfort. She stared at her reflection in the tall mirror. Her simple gown, though expensive now, didn't erase the years she had spent being ordered around in that same house. It felt like a dream she wasn't sure she belonged in. The door opened gently. Daniel walked in, his face lighting up the moment he saw her. "You look sad," he said, coming close. Grace looked down. "I don't feel like I belong here." He frowned. "Why would you say that?" She hesitated. Because this wasn't meant to be mine. I don't want to come between you and your mother, or make enemies in your own home. Maybe I should have stayed away." Daniel knelt in front of her, lifting her chin. "Listen to me, Grace," he said softly, eyes full of emotion. "You are worth every argument, every fight, every storm. I didn't fall in love with your background. I fell in love with you, and I will fight for you every single time." Tears filled her eyes. "I don't want to be the reason your mother hates you," she whispered. Daniel shook his head. "She'll come around, or she won't. But I'm not letting go of the only woman who ever made me feel like more than my money. You didn't chase me. You didn't want my world. and that's why you deserve it." At the other end of the mansion, Charlotte watched from the hallway as Grace walked gracefully through the sitting room. The maids stood respectfully, opening doors for her, carrying her bags. She greeted them with a gentle smile, not a trace of pride in her tone. Charlotte clenched her fists. "I used to order her to wash my shoes," she muttered under her breath. "And now she's the madam," Evelyn added, standing beside her. Both women stared as Grace walked past with calm confidence. The same girl who once cleaned their rooms now carried herself with the dignity of royalty. "She didn't even fight," Charlotte said bitterly. "She just became. She's even more respected now than we are," Evelyn said, her voice bitter and cracked. "Because her husband loves her. Because she earned her place without force." They both stood there, two women in expensive clothes, unable to accept that the girl they looked down on now wore a crown they couldn't see. A crown placed by love, not money. Vanessa packed her things that same evening. She didn't cry anymore. Her face was dry, expression blank. She passed the maids without a word, ignoring their stares. Her world had crumbled, and there was no saving it. She looked back once at the mansion, remembering the nights she spent imagining her name on the walls, her children running in the hallways, her hand resting on Daniel's chest. But dreams built on pride and lies don't last. She walked out quietly, her heels clicking on the marble floor like fading footsteps of a life that never truly belonged to her. Inside, Daniel sat beside Grace, his hand resting gently on her belly. "This is our home now," he whispered, and for the first time Grace believed it. The sun rose gently over the small town, casting a warm golden glow on the dusty roads and simple homes. But today something was different. The air buzzed with excitement. The town square had been transformed overnight. Bright fabrics danced in the wind, drummers warmed their instruments, and the scent of fresh food floated in the air. Grace stood in her room, surrounded by aunties and women from the neighborhood. Her traditional wedding attire was rich with gold, coral beads, and hand-woven fabrics. Her hair was styled in a regal updo, and soft makeup highlighted her already glowing face. She looked like royalty. She was royalty. Tears welled in her eyes as she looked in the mirror. Was this really her? The same girl who once hawked groundnuts to help her sick mother? The same girl who mopped floors in a mansion where they barely said her name? Her mother, wearing a matching lace gown, wept softly in the corner. "They used to call us nothing," she whispered. "But look at you now, my daughter. Look at what God has done." Outside, Daniel arrived in a grand convoy. His car, sleek, black, and shining like a diamond in the sun, glided through the narrow village path. People gathered, pointing and whispering. Men in fine agbatas and women in gold head wraps followed. Society elites, business tycoons, celebrities, and even journalists were in attendance. The crowd gasped when Daniel stepped out. Tall, confident, and striking in his traditional attire, Daniel was every bit the groom of dreams. But his eyes searched for one person only, Grace. The ceremony was rich with culture and color. Drums beat loudly, dancers moved in joy, and elders blessed the couple. Grace walked slowly into the square, all eyes on her. Her skin glowed, her eyes sparkled, and her smile said everything. Daniel's heart beat fast. She was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. His mother, Evelyn, and sister, Charlotte, didn't come. Their chairs at the front remained empty, but Daniel's father was there. He sat proudly, clapping as the ceremony unfolded. He had come not as a business mogul, but as a father who had chosen love and respected his son's decision. When the priest asked Daniel why he had chosen Grace, he looked at her, eyes glistening. "Because she is strong, because she never gave up, because she made me a better man, and because I love her." The crowd erupted in cheers. After the ceremony, as they sat beneath a decorated canopy eating with the people, Grace leaned close to Daniel. "Thank you," she whispered. "No," he said, taking her hand. "Thank you. You saved me when I didn't know I needed saving." Back in the mansion, life changed. Grace returned not as a maid, but as the woman of the house. The maids who once whispered behind her back now admired her openly. They served her with love and respect, not fear. Grace treated them kindly, never forgetting where she came from. She made sure none of them were ever mistreated again. Her presence had shifted the atmosphere. Even Evelyn and Charlotte, though still distant, no longer raised their voices at the help. Grace had become more than a wife. She had become a lesson. Evelyn avoided her, ashamed, yet slowly accepting what she could not change. Charlotte was quieter now, more observant. They both kept their distance, watching Grace from the corners of rooms they used to rule. And slowly, silently, they began to respect her. At night, Daniel would hold Grace close and talk about their future. "We'll travel soon," he promised. "You'll have the baby abroad, in the best hospital. Your mother and brother will come too. You'll have the best care. And when the baby comes, our family will be complete." Grace cried silently on his chest, not because she was sad, but because she had never felt so seen, so safe, so loved. She remembered the lonely nights in her small room, the days she walked barefoot, the insults, the pain. But those days had made her. They taught her strength. And now, here she was, lying beside the richest man in the city, the father of her child, her husband. Not because of luck, but because destiny had finally kept its promise. The world had looked down on her, judged her by her poverty, her job, her silence. But what they didn't see was the fire inside her, the strength, the faith. She had risen, not because she fought like the world expected, but because she stayed true to herself. She had risen from dust to royalty, and the story didn't end with wealth or a wedding. It ended with love, the kind of love that doesn't care where you came from, the kind that rewrites your name, the kind that turns a girl like Grace into the queen she was always meant to be. And so, Grace's journey, from the shadows of rejection to the heights of royalty, reminds us that destiny never forgets those who walk with courage and heart. She rose from dust, not by fighting with bitterness, but by holding on to her worth. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful, emotional stories like this one. What would you do if love found you in the lowest place of your life? Can true love really overcome class, betrayal, and pain? Would you choose your heart, even when the world says no? Let us know in the comments and stay tuned. More unforgettable stories are coming.